So welcome everybody. I'm going to talk about how the 6 spiritual weaknesses of the 6th house are countered by the Shad Sampat of yogic philosophy. And Shad Sampat means the 6 wealths. So we have the 6 weaknesses and the balance of the 6 wealths. And so there I am with Anna from yesterday.
Like that.
It's a very nice puja yesterday that was done at the start. And so we'll do the chanting to start with. And normally I just do a small chant. So we do Ganesha to remove the obstacles to the Guru, who's the teacher for giving us the higher knowledge. And then for all the 9 planets, and today being Saturday, for Saturn. So that's the small prayer. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Dhyanamoolam Gurur Murti, Pujamulam Gurur Padam, Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam, Mokshamulam Gurur Kripa. Om Adityaya Somaya Mangalaya Budhaya Cha, Guru Shukra Shanibhyascha, Rahuve Ketave Namaha. Om Shanishwaraya Namaha. Om Shanishwaraya Namaha. Om Shanishwaraya Namaha. So this chant for the planets, you actually do just the name of the planet. You can even make it shorter. Shani is the name for Saturn, so you can just do Om Shani Namaha. So just saying, I say the name of Saturn. In a way, it becomes respectful chant. And so today we are talking about the 6th house and how to understand it, and then also how to balance the 6th house issues. So 6th house is primarily the house of disease, but disease means you are out of balance. It can be physical disease, it could be emotional, mental, anything. And it's a house of obstacles and enemies, both outer and inner enemies. And the thing is that all of us have a 6th house. So therefore we can't avoid it. So we have to learn how to use the energy and work with the energy. So 6th house is the house of karmic difficulties, and the difficulties express themselves through ill health, opposition through enemies, debt, struggles in life, and service to others. This house can appear as difficulties, but learning to deal with our challenges also leads to strength and power. It shows our ability to withstand the negative issues of life. If you have a strong 6th house, you can overcome any difficulty. And the idea is that for all of us, we have to learn how to overcome it, not get oppressed by it. So you start with this idea, and so it's called in Sanskrit Aribhava. So Ari means ungenerous, malicious, not devoted, hostile, or it just literally means number 6. And Ari means the enemy of mankind, usually referred to the 6 instincts that keep us attached to the materialistic purpose of life. So growing up in India, I lived in India till I was 28, and then I moved to UK, and now I live in USA. But while you live in India, these 6 instincts are always told to you. You should control them, you should manage them. It was something right from childhood we were informed about. But till really I started going into yoga and Jyotish, because Jyotish is also a higher form of yoga. that I started understanding, what these instincts were and how to deal with them. So these instincts can become our weakness and create spiritual imbalances that are responsible for our ill health. So I'm not just talking about physical ill health, but mental, emotional, anything that we feel troubled about and what brings imbalance to our life. So the 6 Aris are Kaam, Kroddh, Madh, Lobh, Moh, Matsarya. So these are the 6 weaknesses. Kama means desires, passion. Kroddh means anger. Madh means intoxications, drugs, alcohol. Lobh means greed. Moh means attachment. And Matsarya is jealousy or envy. Very similar to the, in Christianity also you look at the sins. But these are specifically 6 in number and connected to the 6th house. So these Aris are also known as Shad Ripu. Shad means 6 and Ripu is enemy again. And the 6 enemies of mankind may create emotional feelings, desires that are not the root cause of our illness. So the idea is that these things that we don't even understand that they are causing imbalance to us, because we deal with them on a daily basis, and some people with great intensity, but most of us with little things, that are creating the imbalance. So a strong moon and the lagna. So lagna is the ascendant. So if your ascendant ruler is strong, then he has the ability to control your energy. If your moon is strong, it also has the ability, because it does not allow the Shad Ripu to dominate. And the strength and weakness of the Lagna and its Lord decides whether the Shad Ripu can get out of control. So this is a very key point in Vedic astrology and in any astrology, is that if you think about your ascendant ruler as like your CEO or your master president of your chart, so if he knows how to manage your other planets, who are all the subordinates that he's working with, then you can manage them. So nothing gets so strong that they become oppositions and they create negativity. Or if your moon is strong. Moon is the mind, the ascendant is more your intellect, your physical self. And in Vedic astrology and through the philosophy of the Vedic knowledge, we are always trying to strengthen the mind. Your starting point may not be strong. And as I explained to you yesterday, the moon is all the time troubling, even if you have the perfect moon in your chart. Because it's daily doing all sorts of things. It's with Mars today, it'll be with Saturn tomorrow, with Pluto day after. I'm just talking, I don't know where they are, but with the nodes. So it's up and down, waxing, waning. So we have to manage the moon, and one of the great ways of managing your moon is through chanting. So we do listen to chanting, but doing your own chants. That's a very simple remedy to do. That's why we always start a program with chanting. And even your name is like a chant. So if you have a nice name and people call you nicely, it's like a chant to you. So it helps your mind. But helping and working with the mind and also your ascendant, what are the things that support your life? So that is what I'm saying. You can have a starting point as a strong moon, or because everything you're seeing is a balance. Because if the 6th house is your obstacle, what are the talents you have to fight those obstacles? That's one thing. And even to fight your illness. If you've got a strong sun, you have a strong ascendant, then you are master of your illness. If those things are weak, then the illness can take hold of you because you have a low immune system. So you have to see the balance. So, but if the 6th house is very powerful, the weaknesses can dominate. So the first weakness that we study is called Kama. It's the first and the most important weakness. It is also Purusharth. Purusharth is one of the 4 aims of life. So in Vedic knowledge, we have 4 aims of life, and the most important one of them is Kama. That means you must enjoy the quality of life. But it's also your weakness. So contradiction suggests that only uncontrolled karma is negative for us. And the thing about karma is that it's a physical reaction. It's our desire for sex, desire for relationships, for connecting. But if we have that good, healthy desire, it cannot be a weakness. But if it gets out of control, then it becomes a weakness. And in the chart, Mercury, Venus, and Saturn are the lords of the Kama houses. We have 3 houses that deal with Kama, and Mercury, Venus, and Saturn are the lords of the 3rd, 7th, and 11th houses. So there are 3 houses according to Vedic astrology that rule Kama. The 3rd house, which is sex, 7th house, which is marriage, and 11th house is affairs. And you have the natural zodiac. If you look at it, the 3rd house is ruled by Mercury, 7th house is ruled by Venus, and 11th house is Aquarius. And in Vedic, we look at the rulership of Saturn as a traditional rulership. So you see, we don't think of Saturn being passionately in love with anybody or anything, but Saturn can be responsible, because if Saturn is there, he feels hard done by regarding relationships. So he is resentful that I don't have relationships. But Mercury definitely is very much looking, especially as the ruler of Gemini, to make the connection with somebody. You know, the Gemini twin, it's in Vedic we call it a couple rather than a twin. So they want to connect, they want the soulmate, they want to connect with somebody. So the Mercury rulership of Gemini definitely represents that. And of course, so the Kama is also the physical element of our own physical desires. So in order to manage them, we have to deal with, fidelity and constant relationships and good, healthy relationships, whatever it means in the times you live in. We shouldn't think something 500 years ago is relevant today, or when the Vedas were written, but what is relevant today in your country, where we live, the times we live. But so that is the first weakness. And then the second weakness is called Kroddha. And Kroddha is anger. And Sun, Mars, Saturn, Rahu, Ketu, all can be angry. Mars is the primary significator, but Saturn is extremely angry planet. Actually, he is a planet that holds on to anger. And when we look at anger in the form of depression, where people who study depression is also kind of anger, that is not a Mars anger. Mars anger is you get angry, you've said it, that's it. Other person may not take it nicely, but a Mars person has said it and forgotten about it. But Saturn will hold the grudge. And in the mythology of Saturn, Saturn is the son of Surya, the sun god. And he's rejected by the sun god. So Saturn holds a lot of anger against authority, against power people. And you see that if you have Saturn connected to your 4th house, which is to the home, and other areas. Of course, 6th house we are looking at just now, but Saturn can be definitely very angry and he's angry in a depressive sort of way and holding on to anger. And Rahu also, Ketu, both of them, they are shadow planets, and they are also, because they are unsettled, we spoke about that yesterday, they are half, so they don't know the full story, so it's very easy for them to get agitated. And if those of you ever watched an eclipse happen, you see that the nodes are driving through the sky like a force. It's very powerful force. And that force can also be represented in anger. And of course Sun, because Sun is the king and he's a hot planet, and you see that arrogance or the Sun anger also is reasonably pure anger. You get angry, you say it, don't hold on to things. So in anger issues you really need to study the role of Saturn, Rahu and Ketu, because they are more complicated angers than pure anger of Mars or of Sun. Sun is the easiest anger to deal with, second is Mars, and then the other three are more complicated. Then Madh means intoxication and obsession. And the most obsessive sign we all know is Scorpio. So if you have if you look at the natural zodiac, the natural sixth house ruling for Gemini ascendant, sixth house is ruled by Scorpio. If you just look at the natural chart, one sign, one house. But Rahu, Ketu again, they can get intoxicated and obsessive. And then Moon. Moon has specifically, because the mythology of the Moon also suggests that he falls in love with one. He has 28 wives, and then he falls in love with one wife very obsessively. And the Moon is the 28 different interests you have. But the one interest is your passionate one. You're not, the others are just like, okay, but, and so it's very easy for the mind to get obsessive about something. And then especially when you study the Moon is placed in these different nakshatras. Nakshatras are the lunar mansions, and each of the nakshatra has an animal connected with it, and the animals of the nakshatras can be very obsessive. So like you have the elephant, it can go into mast, so that means it gets into like a sexual obsession. A lot of animals in the wild, when they get into a state of mast, you can't control them. So that is connected to the Moon sign. So, but that usually you don't see it so often unless the Moon is very troubled. And so we see that with Bharani and the elephant. Each nakshatra, there are two elephant representations of the nakshatras. So you can see that. Then greed, Lobh is greed, and Mars, Saturn, Rahu, Ketu. You see, they are starring a lot. Saturn is repeating itself and the nodes. That's why it's so important to understand their quality. So the thing about Mars and Saturn is Mars wants power. So the greed is with power. I want to control, I want to be the boss. Saturn's greed is because he has been denied. He actually belongs to the dynasty of the kings, but he's a pauper. He's been thrown out of the dynasty. So therefore he wants what the kings have. And Rahu Ketu both eclipse the sun, so they want power. So the greed is possible with them. Again, yesterday I spoke about Rahu Ketu and how much they want things, especially Rahu. And Ketu also, because Ketu holds on to, is greedy because he holds on to things. So it's a different kind of greed. And then Mo is love and attachment, and Rahu again, he is in love with love, he wants things. Moon and Venus. So, and the final one is jealousy, and again in jealousy, Rahu, Ketu, Moon and Saturn. Actually, Moon's story of the Moon also suggests how Moon is a male god in Vedic astrology. And he has these wives, and the wives are jealous of his love for the one wife. So he gets cursed because of that. So sometimes your Moon is also having to deal with jealousy issues. Emotions have to deal with other people's jealousy as well, not necessarily yourself being jealous of something. So, and the nodes and Saturn again, because Saturn is jealous of what he doesn't have. So he's a generally deprived planet. And remember, they may not all act like that, because in order to see that in the chart, you have to see how well they are placed, how they are connected to the sixth house, what is there in the sixth house to see this aspect. That you have the sixth house, you may have planets in your sixth house, you have a ruler of the sixth house. So depending on the dignity of the planet, and remember the dignity of your ascendant ruler and the moon, because what is your balancing power? You see the difficulties, and in this you notice that in all the weaknesses, Jupiter is not featuring. So Jupiter is regarded as the guru. So he is both your inner teacher and the outside teacher who can teach you and allow you to develop your higher self. So therefore, often a good teacher, a good advisor can help you to deal with these weaknesses. So there's a lot, you have to see a lot of multi-layered approach. But the main thing is this, that what is the strength of your positive energy as against the difficulties represented by the sixth house. So it's not just that the sixth house can overpower and everybody is involved with that. But generally, what are the sign ruling the sixth house will have this impact. So I've just given a little bit of planets and their connection with the signs. Now, I do understand that all of you are Western astrologers here, most of you, and I'm talking Vedic. So you have to see how it works out, but I'm sure that there are some similarities as well. When I look at Aries in the sixth house, it may represent something slightly different because we use the sidereal zodiac, but the concept is the same. So Aries, of course, is ruled by Mars, it's anger. So if you have Aries ruling the sixth house, then remember Mars, Aries anger is, I've got angry, I've moved on. It's not holding on to anger, but still, anger issues are there. In India, people don't like anger so much, and as we were growing up, we were always told to remain calm, but it's also focusing your anger to positive things. Just being angry for the sake of being angry is no good, because you're creating illness. But if you are angry, you use that energy, you walk or you fight for a cause or you do something positive with it. You can have a positive or a negative anger. But, if you're sitting in a traffic jam and being angry, it's not productive anger at all, because nothing you can do about it. Taurus is possessiveness, greed, because Taurus is earth sign. He wants land and property and comfort and things. Gemini is desires and attachment. Gemini is definitely attachment, because Gemini is the couple. So the Gemini is attached to the concept of finding the other half. So if you have Gemini in the sixth house, then that is one of the issues that you work with. Cancer, again, attachment to emotions, jealousy. Leo is intoxicated by power, ego, anger. Virgo is also attachment. Libra is karma, desires. Scorpio can reflect any of the Aries, because Scorpio likes to hold on to things, It's very transformative sign, don't get me wrong. People with Scorpio can be very changeable, but then if they plug into their negativity, that is the difficult energy for them. Sagittarius is anger, Capricorn greed, Aquarius dark emotions, anger, greed, possessiveness, desires, and Pisces is attachment. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, so they have to let go of sometimes very small attachments in order to transcend, because it is holding you back. Generally, in the two signs that are very complicated and need a lot of spiritual understanding are Scorpio and Aquarius, because Scorpio is the sign of transformation. Aquarius is the sign of where the gods and the demons are fighting with each other, your weaknesses and strengths. So you have to learn how to manage your weakness for Aquarius. So Aquarius needs a lot of sympathetic understanding. Very famous Aquarius ascendant was Michael Jackson. Vedically Aquarius. His moon is also in Aquarius. So, his energies became unmanageable because in his 6th house he had cancer there, so attachments, and he had Venus in the 6th house. So Venus also gives desires and passions and things like that. One of the reasons why 6th house becomes difficult to deal with is that we naturally don't understand it. It's hidden, it's somewhere there. Like if the head is my 1st house, I can't see the 6th house, it's somewhere at the bottom. So you don't understand what is required from you. And that is the greatness or the beauty of astrology, that it tells you what is there so that you can do something about it. But naturally, as an individual, the 6th and the 8th house are not easy to understand because they're not visible to you. We can see the 7th house, we can see the 4th, but we can't see the 6th house. So that is an important aspect. And then just giving you the planets again, Sun is anger. It's about power. Sun, of course, also dispenses justice as the king, as powerful person. Moon is desires, Kama, more. Mars is Kroddh. Mars can also be Kama because it's passion. Mercury is Kama. Jupiter can be Lobh, and greed if weak. So Jupiter, although did not feature in the earlier story, Jupiter also has his weakness. In India, we tend to totally put Jupiter in a different area. So he has nothing wrong with him. But in practice, you see that Jupiter can also have a weakness. You can also have a wrong guru or a wrong teacher. Your own advice may be slightly fractured. So Venus is Moh and Kama. Saturn is Kroddha and Lobh. Saturn generally is, if left unchecked, can cause a lot of problems. If you have Saturn in Aries, Saturn in Leo, because any of the fire signs, then that is quite a resentful Saturn. And remember, when I say resentful, it is at that starting point of it. You may have worked on it and sorted it out, but the starting point is difficult. Then how you deal with it is your responsibility. Rahu is Madh, intoxication, Matsarya, which is jealousy. Ketu is attachment. Matsarya, jealousy. Ketu is attachment because in order to transcend, we have to let go of our attachment. In order to move onto the next level of any spiritual development. So Ketu brings the self-realization, but he first gives you the attachment because he's holding us through our past lives, through our subconscious. So he's holding us back. So in order to let go of the attachment, we have to study Ketu. So all these planets, if they are placed in the 6th house, or they rule the 6th house, they will bring out these issues. So, you have to look at the balance between the 6th house and the ascendant. And I will just show you Michael Jackson's chart one sec. I know many of you, I don't want to show you too many charts because we are looking at the Vedic chart, but so Michael Jackson's birth data that I have is connected to when he was having trouble with his court case. He was visiting a Vedic astrologer in LA, but 200 times he visited him. So when he died, he shared the birth data. Before that, we didn't have his time of birth. So
What is his time?
I just give it to you. So it's 29th of August, 1958. 1932 in Gary, Indiana, USA. So from a Vedic point of view, he has Aquarius ascendant and moon in the ascendant. And moon rules his sixth house, so the house of weaknesses. And moon, of course, is all about emotions as well. So you see that, and then he has his ascendant ruler Saturn is in Scorpio, and Scorpio is a very complicated sign. It's about the urge to transform, but quite often the transformation is there, but people get held back. They want to transform. Aquarius, very powerfully spiritual sign, but it has to deal with its gods and demons. So you see here that he has the sixth house ruler in the ascendant. And in the end, his story does tell us that his weaknesses took him over. He became subservient to them. And what emerged after he passed away was that he would not go to, he would go to the therapist if they didn't say what he wanted to hear. He would leave them. He would search for the therapist who was giving him the advice he wanted. So, and you see here in the ninth house, which is the house of the advisor, he has Jupiter and Rahu together. So many people talked about it, and even one of my students, he was working in a hospital where Michael Jackson came for some treatment. And it was this whole messing up of it, which can happen easily when you're in a media situation, because people are enablers to your weakness. But you see, he had to deal with that because his sixth house ruler is in the ascendant. And so he had to somehow work with that. And when you're in media, TV, all those where there's a lot of money and fame, then it's not that easy to handle. With working with the weakness, then that can be a problem. So the concept is that the Shad Ripu that build up over lifetimes and create imbalances and add to the weakness and stress. So we have these things are built up, not just from this lifetime. It's built up over many lifetimes. So, but we have to deal with them now, because if we are talking about it now, we are dealing with it now. Some people don't deal with it ever, but it is. So the yogic concept is that Shad Ripu are counteracted by the six wealths, or Shad Sampat of the Vedic philosophy, and Jnana Yoga. So Jnana Yoga is the highest aspect of yoga, and Jnana means the yoga of knowledge. So in the yoga of knowledge, there's this concept of Shad Sampat, and Shad Sampat means the six wealths. So Shad means six, Sampat is wealth. Instead of drowning in the toxicity of the six weaknesses, we can learn to develop the Shad Sampat and improve the quality of well-being and health. So when you're studying high yogic philosophy, so there's four yogas. You start with karma yoga, which is selfless effort. Bhakti yoga is the yoga of devotion, of prayer, and then we have Raja yoga. That is what the yoga we know, in which the asana comes in, the practice of the yoga postures and breathing practices. And there are 8 sections of the Raja Yoga, and then finally is the Jnana Yoga, which is a yoga of knowledge. So when people you meet the great sages, they are all Jnanis. They are on the path of the Jnana Yoga. So this is not a quick route to perfection. We are exploring the root of our weaknesses and disease, but by counteracting our weakness with strength, we develop our strength. So the idea is this, that you don't leave anything in its raw state, and it's not necessary that you're saying, oh, I'm dealing with Saturn today. I'm dealing with this planet. You are understanding that these are existing in all of us due to our birth. Some may be having bigger issues and some may have lesser issues. But it's how to counteract them. So this is the Shad Sampat is the part of Jnana Yoga Sadhana. And so all material from the Shad Sampat I am presenting here is part of the Shivananda tradition. So Swami Shivananda, I had him today as the guru. He has written a book called Bliss Divine and Sadhana. But actually it's only like one little 4 or 5 verses in it. So you need somebody to teach it. And Swami Sita, she's a friend of mine, and I was just lucky that I was there at the ashram and she was teaching this. So I was there, she said, come and attend my lecture, and I attended, and she talked about the 6 wells. And I immediately connected the two together. And so it's very much because of that workshop that I started talking on this balancing energy. And then the book Viveka Chudamani, it's also a small book that is available. Swami Shivananda's books, many of them are available free for download. So if you look it up, or Divine Life Society, they're very reasonable. I think they have a Divine Life Society here in Cape Town if you want to get. But online, I noticed that one of the things he did was that you can download these. And if you maybe study this, the Shad Sampat. So when attending a workshop with Swami Sita, I made the connection between the 6 enemies and the 6 wells of man, the Shad Ripu and the Shad Sampat. And where there is an enemy, there must be a counterpart. So that is the key aspect here, that where there is a negative force, we have something positive that is allowing us to deal with it. So what is often not discussed about the 6th house is its ability to get siddhis and overcome adversity and transcend even the most difficult challenges. So siddhis are called accomplishments. And the most famous person who showed his siddhis was Sai Baba. You know, he could bring anything out from anywhere. But in the Vedic text, they talk about people have the ability to become small, to become big, to travel from here to USA without a flight, you know, be 2 places at the same time. There's a sage in India, he's no longer with us, but he's called Neem Karoli Baba. And it's quite often said about him that people have known that 2 people said he was with us in 2 different places. So he had the siddhi to appear at different places without actually traveling there. So these are kind of things about lore, but it's about all comes from the 6th house. And the siddhis can only come when we learn to transcend what appears to be our weakness. So, struggles versus siddhi. Siddhi literally means accomplishment. Actually, okay. No, I'm okay. So what appears as difficulty or problems, but learning to deal with them also leads to strength and power. It shows our ability to withstand negative issues of life. We gain siddhis and accomplishments. By understanding and modifying our weaknesses, we become strong. So in order to attain Shad Sampat, we must be immersed in sadhana. Sadh means to exert, to endeavor to get a desired result, a siddhi. Any spiritual practice is called sadhana. So sadhana is basically a practice to gain something, but not gain something in a material way, but to gain something in a positive spiritual way. So siddhis are accomplishments, not ordinary ones, but ones gained by controlling the inner weakness and gaining spiritual progress. So, you know, I think it's not about suppressing these desires, but it's about managing them. Because if you suppress them, then they are stuck and then they will come out in a big way. So it's about learning to manage them over time. So the whole information about the six wells comes from this practice called Sadhana Chatushtaya. And sadhana means, as I said, a spiritual practice. Chatushtaya means four. So a spiritual aspirant must walk on the path of truth by acquiring the four sadhanas. A person who wants to deal with their Shad Ripu must also follow these. So these four sadhanas, out of which one of them is the six wells. First is called Viveka, second is Vairagya, third is Shad Sampat, and fourth is Mumusukta. I will just give you the explanation. Viveka is discrimination. So the Viveka is awakening between what is good for you and what is not good for you. That is the first step towards understanding that what is really correct for you. Again, I must emphasize, according to where you live, according to your social energy, not according to what I think is correct for you, but where you are living, according to the times you live in. So the thing they explain here is Atma and Anatma, self and the non-self. What is real, what is unreal, Sat, Asat, real, unreal, Nitya, Anitya, permanent or impermanent. So these are the three things. But basically it is to be enlightened enough to understand that what is right for you. So that is what is Viveka. And the book that I was telling you, Viveka Chudamani, that's also dealing with this. It's a very small book, but it's about dealing with what is the truth for you. So to understand that. So a person who wants to progress on the path of controlling their weakness, they must understand that I have the weakness. Before they can move on, they can develop anything further. So this gives inner strength and inner peace, because once you understand what is right or wrong, then that is the first condition. The second condition is once we have Viveka, that leads to Vairagya. And Vairagya is dispassion, to separate yourself from the objects of desire which are perishable and impermanent. So a person who has Vairagya has no Rag Dvesha, means no attachment or attraction or repulsion. But basically Vairagya doesn't mean lack of empathy or lack of caring. Vairagya means detachment, that you are almost learning to watch your life as a play, as detached from sometimes things that are troublesome to you. So you learn to develop that sense of detachment and to watch life as it progresses. And so it's not essential they abandon their material responsibilities, but they have a life of dispassion, giving equal importance to happiness and sorrow, gain and loss. One of the things that my guru taught me, I was going through a really bad transit, and he said to me, "Oh, you must love your bad transits." And I said, "I don't love them at all." This was about 30 years ago. Because obviously I was thinking I was suffering. And he said, "Well, that's all part of it. Tomorrow you'll be very happy." So you have to have a balance, that you're not overly happy that I got everything, and then you're not totally sad, because life comes cyclically. You know, you'll get these periods. So you have to learn this concept of detachment, that even happiness is good, even unhappiness is good, because that is part of your learning to deal with life. So a person who's in a state of Vairagya, they learn how to balance even because they know that the extreme joy may not last, and the extreme sorrow also will not last, because it's perishable. That the joy that we feel, what we interact with, that is and then we come to, so first you have to have these first two steps, that you are enlightened and you are detached. And in a way it means you're also detached from your chart because your chart is just a way of how your life is expressing itself. It's not you. It's what has got hold of you. and that is your old karma, it's your old thing. So we have to not feel sorry about our chart, that we have these issues, but we have to have the enlightenment and discrimination to understand that we are acting through it, but we are not it. So it's not essential that they're sorry, I went the other way around. So then we get the dispassion, and then we come to the 6 wealths. So the Shad Sampat, the 6 virtues. So these are the 6 virtues: Sama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, and Samadhana. Sama is serenity, tranquility of mind, balance. Mind controls the 10 organs of perception, 5 organs of action, therefore controls is of utmost importance. And the mind can easily get out of control. So in order to practice Sama, we have to really practice our moon. Our moon in the chart are the moon by transit. So in India we have a system called the Panchang, which is a daily lunar calendar. 5 limbs of the day. So many traditional people, not necessarily astrologers, they look up the Panchang daily to see what is the quality of the day. It's like an almanac, but it's a bit more than an almanac. So it's like following in the path of the moon, understanding today moon is difficult, so I mustn't lose my balance. So that is something we can look through astrology to get the balance. Or, for example, at this stage, we have a lot of difficult energy taking place. We have Mars is with Rahu, Venus is with Mars. They're all together in Vedically in Virgo. So as we are concentrating on astrology and higher knowledge and things, our mind is not focused on the problems of it. It's focused on the elevated energy of it. So we are able to deal with that. But obviously it can throw up problems. So in order to have the serenity, the knowledge of astrology is very important. Because astrology and the transits are always counteracting our serenity. So when we are astrologers, we have a third eye. We can see something that an average person can't see. So therefore we can create that balance, of course with the other practices as well, but understanding that the mind should be in balance. So if our mind is in balance, so mind in the chart is the moon, it's forever changing and experiencing different qualities. So what we have to see is the natal quality of the moon, the dashas, which are the time periods, and the transits. So you are seeing that regularly to develop this balance within you. And the thing is this, that if you're going through a difficult transit, doesn't matter which astrology you're looking at, then that doesn't help in your balance. So therefore then your practice to establish balance has to be even more. And the practice is not, doing yoga, doing the right thing, eating the right food, working with your issues. There's lots of things that you can do. But you have to see that what astrology does is it enlightens us that this is a time where we are out of balance. And of course, one of the easiest thing of out of balance is that you fall ill. And Swami Shivananda has a very good book on nature cure. And he says that when you're ill also, the body is just way of renewing itself. So if we cure ourselves normally through natural ingredients, so if you have a temperature or fever, small things, not big issues. But you have to think about that balance as the key area. Because that when you're thinking about these things, you're already in a more enlightened state. So you come to think about the balance, and transits are more likely to disturb the sama, and we need to be aware how planets create our imbalances daily. So it's a good practice to look at the planets and see, and then having some concept and idea of how to cope with them. I've been practicing astrology for 20 years now. So I've been studying full time. I'm a full time practicing astrologer. And I found that half the battle is won when we know what we are fighting against. So you see that this is trouble, so your balance can be out. And there are ways of then bringing yourself back into balance. And when you become conscious, you find that you get yourself into balance quicker, because it's if you don't know, then you've gone so out of balance, then bringing back to the correct normal state is more difficult. So the control and discipline of senses, of the 10 indriyas. Indriyas are senses. 5 planets express the indriyas, and they are always disturbing the moon by creating the desires. So here we have the planets, and basically we have Jupiter, Akash. Jupiter is the planet. Akash is ether. Jupiter rules ether. It affects our sense of hearing. The sense organ is the ear, and the work organ is the mouth. So one of the ways that you can improve your balance is through hearing correct things. That is why they say, hear no evil. You hear the correct things, you listen to the right knowledge. And even if you have a good or bad Jupiter, but that hearing is very important. So you hear good. So these days, we have music playing everywhere. We have sounds all the time. So one of the beautiful things that you can heal yourself is hearing the sound of nature. So that is what at Shambhala, it's so beautiful, that you can just be in nature, walking with nature, not walking fast. I'm told in Japan, they say that you walk under the trees during the day, you're having a tree bath. And what you're doing is, actually, when you think about it, is that you are bathing in the oxygen, because during the day the trees are giving out oxygen. So not a night walk, but like here, you see, you're at that very intense point. Why people relate to nature? So the sound, the natural sound, so the sound of the bird, not the manufactured sound, and then of course also the sacred sounds, the sound of sacred knowledge, of good knowledge, rather than just so when you listen to TV and all the bad news, then that's not a good thing. Then the second is Vayu, which is air, which is controlled by Saturn. Very interesting. Saturn element, natural element according to Vedic, is air, and his sense is the touch, and the sense organ is the skin and hands. And there's one person who does Vayu element very well, and she is the sage Amma. I don't know whether people know her, Ammachi or Amma. She's the hugging saint. When you go to hug her, she hugs you and she holds you. So she touches you, doesn't matter who you are. And I was talking to somebody, the guy who was running the thing, he's a follower of her, just earlier on. And she has an exalted Saturn in her chart. She's born in September in 53, and so Saturn had just moved into... and when you go to her ashram, she will hug you, doesn't matter. And she'll keep on hugging you till late at night. But when you go to her, that she has the power to transmit something very beautiful. I'm not a follower of her, but because her ashram is near where I live in USA, I've had the opportunity to experience that, the sense of touch. But even in our relationships, our love with family and people, we touch the children, we touch our partners, and we hold hands. It's all... So the thing about Saturn ruling that is that you have to be democratic. You have to heal everybody. You shouldn't say, I touch you because I have certain conditions. So that aspect of Saturn ruling is very powerful here, because that is that I am healing you. So you have with Reiki and all the things where the healing by the touch is there. Then Agni, fire, is Mars. And so fire is sight, eyes is, and feet and legs. So Mars and Sun also deals with the sight. It's not just what we see, but what we don't see, and our vision, our ability to see. So the fire element within us, you see, Mars rules fire, but Sun controls the fire. So through the seasons, the Sun is controlling the fire within us. So it's cold, there's less fire. If it is hot, there is more fire. So the Ayurveda, which is the science of life and eating and herbs and all, they manage the fire through food. During the seasons when it is hot, like now we are in Cape Town, it's coming to summer, so there'll be some foods that come up during summer that are cooling you. So the fire is always kept under control, because if the fire gets out of balance, and if you have too strong a Mars in your chart, or you have too strong a Sun, you can burn out, you can burn yourself, just like fire. I was noticing when I was driving down here that there was some fire had taken place here. So you know, fire, when it takes hold, it just burns everything in sight. So we always feel that we need the fire, because it's also connected to digestion. So the fire in our body is there. So okay, 5 minutes left. And then Apas is water. Apas is also Venus, taste, tongue, and genitals. So Venus is very important to deal with, is the purity of your relationships. But again, taste is a way to control your, is the food, the purity of the food. Say, in the fire is controlled through the hot and cold, type of food. But Venus is the purity of food, the pure ingredients, the organic ingredients. What you eat, what you taste. And Prithvi, earth, is smell, nose, and anus. So earth element is also connected to letting go of negativity. Mercury rules earth. So the mind has to also shed its load, shed its baggage. So the anus is just a way of our physical body shedding what it no longer needs. But we need to learn to shed that. So that is all connected to the first, about getting a balance in your life. Then the second is Uparati. Rati means enjoyment. Uparati is abstinence, renunciation of enjoyment of sensuous pleasures. So this is very much a concept that we have to learn to abstain. And this concept is not just Vedic. You see that in Christian, in all religions, Islam, everything is through fasting. You can fast, food fast, you can fast, speech fast, you can fast, don't have chocolate for a few days. You're, not always given to indulgence. So if you want something, you have to learn how to control that. Then Uparati also deals with satiety, turning mind away from desire of sensual enjoyment, abstinence, keeping the mind focused in Shravana or studying of spiritual texts. But the main thing is this, that it's about that I am full up. I don't need to eat something more. Eat is just... Then Titiksha is endurance, ability to face pain without caring. To experience opposites like sorrow, happiness, pain, pleasure, heat, cold with equilibrium. It's not just about physical endurance, but mental one too. So the idea is this, often you see people are not able to endure anything now, because we have become luxury loving, including, sleeping in the tent or doing some hardship. But this is more about, if you are having a difficult transit, you shouldn't collapse with it. You have to think, okay, and it doesn't mean that you endure unnecessary pain, but it's just taking that thing with endurance. Somebody said something very interesting about India. They said you can be a millionaire, but the electricity still goes off. So people in India get used to, because the circumstances are less than positive, to endure things. And as the country is getting richer, the endurance level is getting much worse, because they then get everything. They can have the generator that switches the electricity on. So again, sort of connecting with nature, taking some things that are, not always aspiring for comfort. Then Shraddha is faith. So anything without faith is not. If you doubt everything, you cannot develop your strength. So faith in the word of the Guru, in the scriptures, that means that you have to faith in yourself, I feel. Sometimes we may get a wrong teacher, but we have to develop that faith that we are on a good path. We need to have that strength. So Shraddha is, and final is that if you get the first 5, then the 6th one you're automatically there. So if you've got the balance, you've got the abstinence, you've got the faith, you've got, then the samadhana means that sama means balance and dhan is wealth. So the 6th wealth is mind is free from anxiety even among painful experiences. So this is what I always remember my guru saying, okay, Saturn is going, but learn to deal with it. He didn't teach me this, but he taught me through words that, and when I had my second time the issues, then dealing with these concepts, they helped me deal with difficult transits. Because the attitude is different. Basically, it's the attitude that you develop and you work with. So ability to take good with bad without being ruffled, total peace of mind and inner strength. So, and once you get this, the 4th pillar, so it's like 4 legs of a cart, is mumusuktva, the intense desire for liberation of the soul, to let go of karma, relief from cycles of life and death. But this is kind of very high concept. That means once you're developing on these stages all the time. So once you start thinking that there's an alternative point of view to your obstacles, that's really the idea. And as we get more well off and we are more comfortable with life, we don't have to struggle those struggles. The thing is this, that there are a lot of people who are still struggling purely on a physical matter because they don't have the money, they don't have that ability. Once you have the comforts of life, you have to think beyond that, because that is just one step. That doesn't bring that peace of mind, that calmness. So we have to think about all these things. So therefore, you don't get angry at a drop of a hat. You learn to deal with all these things. So so I'm just going to end this with 4 Mahavakyas, and these are 4 great sayings that are supposed to be the essence of the Vedic knowledge. So they are just 4 words. People meditate on them. You sit and meditate and you think about this concept, because that somehow it helps you to bring the balance and the wealth into your life. So these 6 are Pragyanam Brahma, which means consciousness is Brahman. And here we are not talking about subconsciousness. So when we are raising our consciousness level, we are plugging into the divine grace. That's what I feel, that when we start raising ourselves, we plug into some kind of divine grace, whichever way you plug in. Then I am Atma Brahma, this self, I am my inner self, not my physical self, is Brahman. That means that I am a divine force within. Just the outer covering, my chart, my issues, that is not me. That is the things that I'm struggling with, but my inner self is Brahman. Tat Tvam Asi, thou art that. That means that you are the divine soul. That's a very popular saying, Tat Tvam Asi, that you are part of the divine energy. And Aham Brahman Asmi, I am Brahman, which is again that I am the divine consciousness. So everything, all our struggles, if we plug into this idea that we are the divine consciousness, all the wisdom is within us, but we sometimes need a teacher or somebody who gives us the spark to think differently about our obstacles, our problems. And the greatest joy of astrology is because astrology is called Jyotisha. It's the science of light. So it's throwing the light at what is the thing you're struggling with. So you don't have to try to think, what am I struggling with? Because that's the template is there for you. The times, the transits, the everything. So then you can see that that divine energy can be brought out. And often it's described that before we start our practice, we are studying ourselves as if we are reading through dark glasses. So our issues are all colored. And as we develop, the glass becomes clear. So the purity shines through and we can see what our issues are through the clarity of ourselves. So if you think about it, that your inner self is divine and pure, and we want to reach that energy, so we want to have a clarity of understanding. To me, the first and most important factor is our chart. And the second most important factor is detachment from it. So first we learn what is there, then we learn that, that is my way I express myself. Maybe if I change it slightly, I can improve it. So, but each one has its own journey. So that is where a good astrologer or a good person can guide you to do that. And to me, I think that the best way is to study it yourself, which you're all doing. So thank you. So, any questions? Anybody has any questions? Yes.
I did wonder about if somebody has a natal conjunction of Pluto with the moon.
Yeah.
How that affects trying to overcome that intense natal force.
So, I mean, I'm not an expert on Pluto, but I will give you my opinion. But Pluto is also a force, which is a very intense force. And what I find is that all the malefic planets, traditional malefic planets, in which you would take Pluto and Uranus, is that they're very demanding from you. So they're all the time demanding that you do something about your life, transform, change. They are very much looking for the truth. They don't want your excuses. So if you're giving excuses, then Pluto can dominate you. So your idea with the tight Pluto-Moon conjunction is maybe to think how I can use this energy in a proper way. Not always just feel dominated by it. And I think Pluto has a lot of transforming power. And, so if you use it usually for the good of humanity, for people around you to do that, then it's not bothering your moon so much. So I don't know if anybody else has some thoughts on that. Any other questions? Yes?
In your experience, would it, the ruler of the sixth house, is it well placed in another Gustana?
Yeah, if it is, if it goes into another difficult house, they say that it becomes very strong. Because it means that when you face adversity, you rise above it. So if you have that, but the point about these rulers of the sixth house is there's some difficulty. So you have to face the difficulty in order to transcend it. The role for all people is to learn to transcend the situation. But we can't just straight off, so there has to be some issues that you have to understand and work with. Often these planets give physical health issues, sixth house ruler where he's placed. But, now with, you can learn to deal with that. Okay, I think we are running out of time. So thank you very much.
Thank you.